I'm joined now by Democratic Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. And Senator, you are in Poland this morning. President Trump just returned from Europe, and Sebastian Gorka, who's one of the president's advisors, said that the president in just 10 days has changed the geopolitical reality wherever he went. What's your assessment?
Well, I have a lot of concerns that his whole trip unfortunately wasn't confronting a lot of the core issues that are on the concerns of folks, not just in Eastern Europe, but even in the Middle East. Well, we have a lot of human rights concerns, and for him not to talk openly and candidly, really breaking with traditions that go back from Ronald Reagan all the way to his predecessor, Barack Obama, and not talking about the real human rights concerns in Saudi Arabia. It's almost like reducing America from its light and hope that it presents to the world to just a utilitarian kind of transactional relationship. And here in Europe, there are a lot of folks looking to hear things from him, whether it's his commitment to Article 5 of our treaty with NATO, and or even just talking to larger issues of climate change. He really missed a lot of opportunities to add to the security or add to the important urgency we have in meeting Russian aggression. And to me, it's starting a very bad pattern for this president.
Senator, Russia's ambassador to the U.S. told Moscow that Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, wanted a secret communications channel with the Kremlin. Are you with the DNC in wanting Jared's security clearance to be suspended?
Well, I think this should really raise a lot of concern, and I think the sort of media around this is not overblown in the sense that you have Republicans and Democrats coming out and saying, hey, wait a minute, that's very problematic. And so we need to get to the bottom of what was going on. There needs to be an investigation. There needs to be an answering of the obvious questions that are arising. But again, to me, what's worrying me are the patterns we're seeing. So one is this administration's not talking about our values, cozying up to authoritarian leaders. And the other pattern we have is just this continuous drumbeat of inappropriate contacts
but Senator,
with the Russians.
In the meantime, while there's an investigation, should Jared Kushner's security clearance be revoked or at least suspended?
Well, again, I think we need to first get to the bottom of it. He needs to answer for what was happening at the time. It raises very serious concerns for me, and that could be a potential outcome that I seek. But I want to understand, at least hear from Jared Kushner as well as the administration about what was exactly going on there.
Senator, you've always prided yourself on reaching out to Republicans. When you first came to the Senate, you had dinner with Ted Cruz. You even wrote a book about finding common ground. So let me ask you about what's going on in the Senate right now, which is they're considering the future of Obamacare. Have you personally reached out to any Republicans to try to come up with a bipartisan solution?
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with Republicans, frankly, on both sides of Congress, and I'm frankly really frustrated that there seems to be this desire to kill the Affordable Care Act. And please understand, even before we talk about the legislation, this administration is doing things that are endangering the markets. They're failing to enforce the individual mandate. They're doing things that cause uncertainty for insurance companies. And so this is a very bad climate, and I've definitely been reaching out and having conversations with folks about, hey, let's come together not to destroy Obamacare, not to get rid of it, but to fix the problems and try to make it better for everybody. But unfortunately, we haven't seen any of that desire. The Republicans right now in the Senate seem to be going off on their own, trying to come up with some legislation. And what passed out of the House of Representatives, we now see what the CBO said is a disastrous piece of legislation that would put tens of millions of Americans' health care in peril. And then on top of that, frankly, giving the wealthiest amongst us tax breaks to yank health care away completely from some of the most vulnerable of our citizens, seniors and children. So this is what we've seen is a craven efforts on the House, amongst the House Republicans, and now it doesn't seem like there's a climate in the Senate to doing the right thing, which is keeping health care for millions of Americans, taking the advancements we've made under the Affordable Care Act and making them better in a bipartisan way. That's what we should be doing, and that's what I'm hoping we eventually get to, at least in the United States Senate.
Senator Hillary Clinton reemerged this week with a major speech at Wellesley College, and she talked about the mood on the campus back in 1969 when she was still a student. Take a listen.
We were furious about the past presidential election of a man whose presidency would eventually end in disgrace with his impeachment for obstruction of justice. After firing the person running the investigation into him at the Department of Justice.
Now, to be clear, Nixon was never impeached by the full House. He resigned before that happened. But present time, are Democrats getting ahead of themselves by imagining the demise of Trump's presidency?
Well, first of all, cut Secretary Clinton some slack. People who might want to rush to criticize her, listen to the whole speech. It was a very beautiful speech, many inspiring words for folks, and we often take little sound bites out.
No, and
this was a,
to be clear, that wasn't a criticism.
Speech by
that
a
was
woman with an incredible career.
That wasn't a criticism. That was a question about whether you agreed.
Oh, I just want to tell you right now, I'm not going to rush to impeachment. I think we need to deal with this in a very sobered way. This can't be a relitigation of an election that is now passed. This has to be about an objective assessment about the facts that are going on right now. And all I know is I'm very satisfied that we have an independent investigation now going on through the Justice Department, as well as both houses seem to be moving not as fast as I'd like, but moving towards independent congressional investigations. We need to make sure that the United States of America is protected. Nobody disagrees with the fact that the Russians attacked us in terms of their cyber attacks, and we need to get to the bottom of what happened. And if there were Americans that colluded with the Russians to undermine our democratic processes, they should be held to account.
Senator Cory Booker, thank you so much for joining me this morning.